Before we dive into this chilling case, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because every week we uncover the real stories that were never meant to be seen. And trust me, you don't want to miss what this CCTV camera captured. The CCTV footage finally loaded after 2 long days of trying to recover it. The officers stood around the monitor in silence, eyes glued to the screen. Detective Laura Jenkins leaned forward, her heart pounding. The missing couple, Ethan and Melissa Turner, had vanished without a trace 3 nights ago. Their car had been found near a quiet diner on Route 67, doors open, engine running. Now, the video showed the final moments before they disappeared. At first, everything looked normal. Ethan was pumping gas while Melissa sat inside the car, scrolling through her phone. The timestamp on the screen read 11:46 p.m. Suddenly, a tall man wearing a dark hoodie appeared behind the pumps. His face wasn't clear. He stood there for a few seconds, watching. Then he moved closer, too close. Melissa looked up from her phone, her eyes widening in fear. Ethan turned, saying something to her, then took a step forward. The man leaned in toward Ethan, whispering something. Ethan froze. Then, out of nowhere, Melissa screamed. The man grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him toward the back of the gas station. Ethan struggled, shouting something the microphone didn't catch. Melissa jumped out of the car and ran after them. Then, the footage glitched. Static filled the screen. When the picture returned, the gas station lot was empty. No Ethan, no Melissa, no hooded man. Just the sound of the wind and the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights. But then, in the reflection of the gas station window, there was movement. A faint, ghostly image. A figure holding up a phone, recording the whole thing from a distance. Someone else had been there. A 4th person. Detective Jenkins paused the video. The room was so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. She paused the video. The room was so quiet she could hear her own heartbeat. Someone filmed the kidnapping, she said softly, and they wanted us to find this. That was the moment everyone realized the CCTV footage wasn't just evidence, it was a message.
3 days earlier, before the footage was recovered, the small town of Evergreen Falls, Illinois, was already in panic. Ethan and Melissa were known by almost everyone. They were high school sweethearts, both 29, married for 5 years, no children yet. Ethan ran a small auto repair shop, and Melissa worked as a nurse at the county hospital. On Friday night, they'd gone out for dinner at a quiet diner by the edge of town. At 10:35 p.m., Melissa texted her sister, saying they were heading home. That was the last time anyone heard from them. When they didn't show up the next morning, their families called the police. The search began immediately. Detective Jenkins, who had just transferred from Chicago after solving a major kidnapping case, took charge. She was calm, sharp, and known for noticing what others missed. But something about this case felt off from the start. The couple's car was found at the diner's gas station, doors open, keys still in the ignition. 2 cups of coffee sat in the cup holders, untouched. There were no signs of struggle. The diner owner swore he didn't see anything strange. They came in, ordered pie, and left smiling, he told police. They didn't look scared or in a hurry. Still, Jenkins' gut told her there was more. She spent the next day reviewing camera footage from nearby shops. Most cameras didn't catch much, only the couple's car driving toward the diner, headlights cutting through the darkness. But the diner's own CCTV files were corrupted. Every clip after 11:45 p.m. was damaged. Jenkins sent the drive to the state lab for recovery. While waiting, she visited the Turner's home. Everything inside was neat, almost too perfect, like they had cleaned before leaving. On the fridge, she found a grocery list and a small note written by Melissa. "Dinner with Ethan, no calls tonight." That line stuck in her head. Later that evening, Jenkins met with Officer Ray Martinez, her partner. They sat in her car outside the station, the night heavy with rain. "What do you think happened?" Ray asked. Jenkins stared out the window. If this was random, they would have found the car on a highway, not at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. "So you think it was planned?" She nodded slowly. They were followed.
The next day, the recovered CCTV drive arrived. The tech team warned that some files were still corrupted, but one clip had survived, the one from 11:46 p.m. And that's what led them to the shocking discovery: the hooded man, the sudden disappearance, and that eerie reflection in the glass. As the screen flickered again, Jenkins noticed something she hadn't before: a small white shape on the man's wrist. She zoomed in. It was a hospital ID band. She turned to Ray. "Melissa works at the hospital, right?" "Yeah, the county one. Why?" Jenkins' eyes darkened. "That band is from there. Someone she knew might be behind this." Before they could react, the station lights flickered. The computer monitor went black for a moment. Then a new file appeared on the desktop. It was labeled, "Watch this next." Everyone in the room froze. Jenkins hesitated, then double-clicked the file. The video opened with a shot of her own office, live, in real time. Someone was already watching them. Detective Laura Jenkins' hand trembled as the video played. The screen showed a live feed of her own office, filmed from somewhere she couldn't see. The timestamp on the footage matched the exact time on her wall clock. For a long moment, no one spoke. "Is this live?" Officer Ray Martinez whispered, stepping closer to the monitor. Jenkins nodded slowly, her pulse racing. "Someone hacked into our system. They're watching us." The live feed shifted suddenly. Blurry movement, a slight tilt of the camera, and then a faint whisper came through the speakers. A man's voice, distorted, but chillingly calm. The next day, the recovered CCTV drive arrived. The tech team warned that some files were still corrupted, but one clip had survived, the one from 11:46 p.m. And that's what led them to the shocking discovery: the hooded man, the sudden disappearance, and that eerie reflection in the glass. As the screen flickered again, Jenkins noticed something she hadn't before: a small white shape on the man's wrist. She zoomed in. It was a hospital ID band. She turned to Ray. "Melissa works at the hospital, right?" "Yeah, the county one. Why?" Jenkins' eyes darkened. "That band is from there. Someone she knew might be behind this." Before they could react, the station lights flickered. The computer monitor went black for a moment. Then a new file appeared on the desktop. It was labeled, "Watch this next." Everyone in the room froze. Jenkins hesitated, then double-clicked the file. The video opened with a shot of her own office, live, in real time. Someone was already watching them. Detective Laura Jenkins' hand trembled as the video played. The screen showed a live feed of her own office, filmed from somewhere she couldn't see. The timestamp on the footage matched the exact time on her wall clock. For a long moment, no one spoke. "Is this live?" Officer Ray Martinez whispered, stepping closer to the monitor. Jenkins nodded slowly, her pulse racing. "Someone hacked into our system. They're watching us." The live feed shifted suddenly. Blurry movement, a slight tilt of the camera, and then a faint whisper came through the speakers. A man's voice, distorted, but chillingly calm.
"You're getting closer, Detective Jenkins, but you're looking in the wrong place." Then static. The room filled with stunned silence. Jenkins stared at the black screen, her mind racing. Whoever was behind this knew they were being investigated and wanted to play games. "Trace that IP address now," she barked at the tech officer. He nodded and began typing furiously. Within seconds, the monitor lit up again, showing lines of code and a pulsing red dot on the map. The trace ended at an address, Old Pine Motel, just 5 miles outside of Evergreen Falls. "That place been shut down for years," Ray muttered. "It's where that fire happened back in 2012. Jenkins grabbed her coat. "Then that's where we're going." The drive to the motel was silent except for the hum of the engine. The night was cold, the sky a deep shade of blue that matched the eerie glow of the dashboard lights. Jenkins couldn't shake the feeling that someone was one step ahead. When they arrived, the motel looked like something out of a nightmare. Windows boarded up, neon sign flickering weakly, weeds growing through cracked pavement. But one thing stood out. Room 404 had a light on. Ray parked the car, and the two stepped out, guns drawn. The air smelled like dust and wet leaves. They approached quietly, their boots crunching on gravel. From inside room 404 came a faint, rhythmic tapping, like something swinging against the wall. Jenkins raised her flashlight and pushed the door open. The smell hit first. Old wood, mold, and something metallic. Inside, the room was almost empty, except for a flickering television on a broken table. On the screen was the same gas station footage they had just seen back at the station. And in front of the TV, two chairs sat side by side.
Each had a mannequin wearing Ethan and Melissa Turner's clothes. Pinned to one of the mannequins was a note written in shaky handwriting. "You should have watched sooner." Ray swallowed hard. What the hell is this? Jenkins scanned the room, her flashlight sweeping over the peeling wallpaper, the ceiling stains, the floor covered in dust, except for a single set of fresh footprints leading to the bathroom door. "Someone's still here," she whispered. She motioned for Ray to cover her as she stepped forward. The closer she got, the louder the tapping became. It wasn't from inside the bathroom, it was coming from behind the wall. Jenkins gently pressed her hand against the wallpaper. It felt hollow. She nodded to Ray, who pulled out a small crowbar from his belt and pried open the thin wood paneling. Behind it was a hidden space, just big enough for a person to stand in. And there, wedged between the studs, was a small camera pointed toward the room. Next to it was an old laptop, still recording. The screen displayed live security feeds, not only from the motel, but from multiple cameras around Evergreen Falls. One was pointed at the diner, another at the Turner's home, and another at the police station. "Oh my God," Ray muttered. "He's been watching everyone." Jenkins scrolled through the files, each one labeled by date. The most recent one was named Tonight. She opened it. The video showed the inside of her car, her and Ray driving toward the motel.
Jenkins froze. He knew we were coming. Suddenly, the motel lights flickered, the laptop screen glitched, and a new message appeared across the top in bold red letters. "You shouldn't have come here." The TV in the corner turned off by itself. Then, from the hallway outside came the sound of heavy footsteps. Jenkins signaled to Ray to turn off his flashlight. They stood completely still, listening. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. A shadow moved under the crack, someone standing there, not moving, just breathing. Then, the doorknob slowly began to turn. Jenkins raised her weapon. The door creaked open, inch by inch. A cold gust of air blew into the room, but there was no one there. Only a small phone left on the ground, screen glowing faintly. Jenkins picked it up. The wallpaper on the phone was a still image, CCTV footage of the diner. She pressed play. The hooded man appeared again, but this time the camera zoomed in closer and Jenkins' breath caught. The man wasn't a stranger. He was Ethan Turner. Ray's voice cracked. Wait, Ethan kidnapped himself? Before Jenkins could answer, the motel lights went out completely. The room plunged into darkness. Then, from somewhere deep in the hallway, a voice echoed faintly, the same distorted voice from the video. "You finally found him, detective. Now, let's see if you can find her." Jenkins' flashlight flickered back on, just in time to see something written on the mirror in red paint.
Room 306, before midnight. She looked at her watch. 11:42 p.m. They had 18 minutes. The air outside was thick with fog as Detective Jenkins and Ray sprinted down the broken motel walkway. Their boots echoed through the night. the only sound apart from the hum of distant power lines. Room 306 wasn't far, but every step felt heavier than the last. Jenkins' flashlight beam cut through the mist, catching glimpses of peeling doors, cracked windows, and stains she didn't want to identify. "Are we really doing this?" Ray whispered, his voice shaky. "We don't have a choice. If Ethan's alive, then Melissa might be too." They stopped in front of room 306. The door was slightly open, swaying with the wind. The number 3 hung by one screw, tilting sideways. Jenkins raised her gun. She counted down softly. 3, 2, 1. She kicked the door open. The light inside flickered weakly. It wasn't empty. Someone had been there recently. On the floor sat a half-eaten meal, a turned-over chair, and in the corner, a laptop showing a paused CCTV video. Jenkins stepped closer. The timestamp read 11:41 p.m., 1 minute before they had entered room 404. Ray leaned over her shoulder. "It's from inside this motel." She hit play. The footage showed Ethan Turner sitting in that same room, room 306. He was facing the camera, pale, sweaty, eyes darting around. His hands were shaking.
"I didn't mean for this to happen," he said, voice trembling. "She found out about the money, about the motel. I tried to stop her." Then a shadow moved behind him. A second figure appeared, wearing a dark hoodie. The figure placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. Ethan froze. "Please don't." The screen went black. Ray swallowed hard. He wasn't alone. Jenkins turned to the room again. "Check the closet." Ray nodded and moved slowly toward it. He reached for the handle, then stopped. "Laura," he said softly, "there's blood under the door." Jenkins stepped beside him and took a breath before pulling it open. Inside wasn't a body, but a wall of old security monitors stacked together, all still running. Every screen showed different locations across Evergreen Falls: the diner, the gas station, the Turner's home, even the police station parking lot. And on one of them was Melissa Turner. She was alive, tied to a chair in what looked like a storage room. A clock on the wall behind her showed 11:54 p.m. Ray's voice cracked. "That's live, Laura! That's now!" Jenkins scanned the frame. "That looks like the basement under the old diner." Without wasting another second, they ran. The streets of Evergreen Falls were empty as they sped toward the diner. The rain began again, light at first, then heavier, washing the dust and tension from the windshield, but not from their nerves. When they reached the diner, the neon sign buzzed weakly in the dark. Jenkins and Ray burst through the back door, guns drawn, their flashlights sweeping through the narrow hallway. They found the stairs leading down. The air grew colder with every step. The basement door creaked open, and there she was, Melissa Turner, tied to a chair, her head hanging low. She looked weak but alive. Jenkins rushed forward, untying the ropes. "It's okay, Melissa. You're safe now," she whispered. But before Melissa could speak, a faint click echoed through the room. Jenkins turned. A man stood in the corner, his hoodie soaked, face shadowed. "Step away from her," Jenkins ordered. The man lifted his head. It was Ethan Turner, but not the same man from the wedding photos.
"You shouldn't have come," he said quietly. "Ethan, what did you do?" Jenkins demanded. He gave a hollow laugh. "I tried to disappear. She couldn't let me." He glanced at Melissa. "She found the money I stole from my company. I begged her to run, but she said she'd tell the police." He took a step closer, and Ray's gun followed him. "I loved her," Ethan whispered, "so I made it look like we both vanished. The fire, the motel, all of it. But she came back. She wanted to make it right." Melissa's voice was barely a whisper. "He locked me here. He watched everything through those cameras." Jenkins' grip tightened on her weapon. "It's over, Ethan. You're done." He smiled sadly. "No, detective. You still don't get it." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small remote. Every secret has a price. He pressed the button. A loud beeping filled the basement. Ray's eyes went wide. "Bomb! Move!" Jenkins grabbed Melissa and dove behind a support beam as the lights flickered violently. But instead of an explosion, the beeping stopped. The monitors on the wall turned on, all showing Jenkins' face live from the basement camera. Then Ethan spoke one last time, his voice echoing through the speakers. "Now, everyone sees the truth." He stepped back into the shadows and disappeared through the side door. Jenkins looked around. Ethan was gone, Melissa was crying, and the screens began uploading the live footage online. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Jenkins stared at the monitors, her reflection staring back, the CCTV timestamp blinking in red. 0001. The screen froze on her face. The broadcast had begun. If this story gave you chills, you're not ready for the next one. Another CCTV tape, another missing person, and one truth that changes everything. Hit subscribe, drop a comment if you think justice was served, and don't forget to share, because someone out there needs to see what really happened.